because if we scroll this down, it goes all the way to 100. We want to make sure that we count everything, right? So in the frequency column for motor vehicle, we want to count how many motor vehicle occurred in column A here, right? So in frequency for motor vehicle, so it's F2, cell F2. There, I'm going to use a function to count how many motor vehicle occurred in column A. So because I'm going to use function, I start with an equal sign. That means I'm going to use a formula. And that function that I can use is count if. The count if function counts in the column range that I specify in the first input. So the data set, data is stored in column A from row 1 to row 100. So we specify where the data is, where count if should count. So it's A1 and then colon A100. And then comma, we separate these two input arguments by comma, and the second argument should be criteria, which means what do you want to count? I want to count how many motor vehicle occurred, right? So I write down motor vehicle. Or you can just say what's in our cell here, this one, E2, right? Motor vehicle is saved in our category E2. So I'm going to write down E2 so that I can use the drag with the mouse later. So enter. Oh, it counted 48. Now I go back to that count, that cell 48. You can see the formula I used. I want to do all of them, count how many drownings, how many fire, or how many homicides there were. You can change this E2, E3, E4, E5, and so on. But you can also use the mouse. So click on E2 at the corner, right bottom corner. You click drag it down with left click on your mouse, left button. And then pull down all the way to other, the auto fill. It changes so that if you go to cell E3, it automatically changed to E3 on this. You can see that, right? And on this, E4, it changed to E4, E5, E6, and so on. Oh, that's not the right one. Oh, sorry, I made a mistake here. So let me just, here, it moved these also, right? So we want to keep the range of the data set as A1 to A100, but when we drag, we want E2 to change to E3. So the second argument changes as we go down, or we want this first argument to stay the same. So we use $sign. $sign fixes the column. So if you put $sign in front of A, it fixes the column A, and we change to this $sign in front of 1 so that it fixes the row number as 1 also. Then $sign A, $sign 100, and F2. So the first one will be the same as this, and then I'll drag this down again in the corner, and you will see that it changed the numbers. So the second Oh. I thought that I changed the dollar sign here. Let me just clear this all. And then I'll drag it. Yes. Did I count all right? I think it didn't. Does it add to? So the last I want to sum up from F2 to F6. Doesn't count, go all the way to F100. Missed something.
Homicide blank.
Huh? Was there a blank?
I think homicide is spelled wrong on your in column E, so it's not carrying it over.
Oh, maybe I typed, maybe there was a mistake in my data. Yeah, something must have counted not right or misspelled somewhere.
In column E, if you spell homicide the same way you have it in A, then it adds up to 100.
Oh, sorry, there was a mistake. I'm sorry. Oh, okay, thank you. I wasn't sure why I got the wrong number, but yes. So here, dollar sign, we have to be careful to use this dollar sign so that it doesn't, in the second cell or the third cell, it doesn't move down the count using the different data sets. We want the same and out the same way. Thank you. We made the frequency table for qualitative data. Now we use this table to create bar graph. So to do the bar graph, we'll take, select, I don't think we need total, so just select E2 to F6, and then go to Insert tab over here, up menu bar, Insert tab, and pick the first of the charts. And if you click this arrow, you will see 2D columns, 2D stacked columns, 3D, however you want, you can choose. But do not choose the stacked ones or the 100 stacked column. They represent some different things. What we want is the first one, clustered column. But if you want a little fancier 3D, you can go with the first of the, I think the first one is better. So less confusion and less misinformation. So pick that and you get bar graphs for each category. And if you click, you can change the name of the chart title, or you can even...
Excuse me.
Yes?
I have a question.
Sure.
I kind of miss how you added all your frequency values to get the total.
Oh, this total. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I went that too far. On the last column here, last cell next to total, I used equal and then used the function sum. That adds up the data that you specify inside this parentheses. And I wanted to add the frequency that's in cell F2, F3, F4, F5, and F6. So F2 colon is like from 2, F2 to F6. We use colon to indicate F2 to F6. Close the parentheses, then it adds up the counts. If it doesn't add up to 100, then like earlier, you know something's wrong. So you get to change, and correct the mistakes.
Could you show the formula that you put in motor vehicle again? Because mine gave me 0 when I used that formula.
Oh.
So I think I may have just wrote it wrong. I'm going to
motor vehicle.
Thank you.
So if you want to change the frequency, you can change into, the chart title, you just click and then change the title, like cause of injury, death. And then change, but you can also use this plus sign here to change. If you want to add name of the axis, like what's on the horizontal axis and what's on the vertical axis, you want to change, then you can click, check this axis titles, and then change. You can add, or if you unselect, then you don't have it. Oh, yeah, sure. Let me go back to that formula here. So on motor vehicle, that's our very first cell, right? So it shows the function we used is COUNTIF, and then we want to fix the data set, right? So the data set should be fixed, the range, and we use $sign to fix. If you want to fix the column, you put the $sign in front of the column name and the row name. Oh, bar graph. Bar graph, I select, click this E1 cell from the cause, and then using the arrow and shift together, I select this from here to here, and then go to Insert tab on the top menu. Insert, right? And then we go to this, here where the insert column or bar chart. Click the arrow, and you can see the very first one. That's what we need for this data set. The stacked ones are when you have more than one category per category. Like we counted frequency. In this case, we counted how many died because of motor vehicle, how many died because of drowning. If we had separated this into 2 categories, like if we separate the frequency into younger than 7 and older than 7. So how many there were? So this 48 will be split into certain numbers, right? Number of children died because of motor vehicle, younger than 7 and older than 7, because this data was between 5 and 9 of age. So you separate that, or girls and boys or something like that. If you have more than one category for the frequency also, then you can use some stacked columns and how many to see the proportion. It's used for multiple categories comparison. But in this case, we do not have that kind of data. we want to just see how many for each category. So the first one, like this, and we get the frequency bar chart or bar graph. And if you want to, E2, it's because I did not want to write down motor vehicle in that category here, E2. I wanted to count how many motor vehicles occurred in between A1 cell A1 to cell A100. So I was supposed to write motor vehicle in quotation marks, or just motor vehicle, but this time I wanted to just use the drag using the for the rest of the cell. So I just used that matches with E2, what's in E2. So it's the counting category. What do you want to count? That's saved in E2. So it's the second argument for the function counter. So if I go to the third, the Browning frequency, it has changed to E3. Excel has a nice function with this category. The mouse, you just drag it. So automatically change this counting criteria to E3, but it's you can see that it stayed. This data set stayed because we use $sign. A1 to A100 is fixed, but you're counting how many E3, how many drowning occurred in that data, in that range. So E4, E5, E6 for the rest.
So if you did not use E2, at each time you need to go back and put the different causes?
I'm sorry?
If you didn't use E2 there for the first case, will you go back now and put like drowning, fire, homicide at each instance in that formula?
Yes. So even though I just dragged it with my mouse, but it changed to E3 automatically to count the drowning. But you can write as drowning instead of E3 for the criteria, or fire for this instead of E4 on this side. Because you have to let the machine know, the program know what you want to count, right? So that the second argument is, what do you want to count? And this first argument, so I think it'll be easier. So this part is where the data is. And this part, even though I wrote like E4, E2 as the cell, as a cell, but you can write it as, what do you want to count? So it's the category you want to count. So it could be fire. To avoid the same mistake I made earlier, you have to write specifically the same thing, right? Because if I had written down as motor vehicle for the very first one, I have to type drowning in my second for F3, F4, and so on. So I didn't want to type all that. Instead, I just dragged it by. If I write using the cell, then I don't have to retype all those categories. Any other questions? Okay, so for qualitative data, these are categories here. These are categories. So to mention, to see what we're talking about, you can give a gap here. Doesn't really matter. And the length, the width here, it doesn't really matter. All that matters is you want to see the height. But if one was like this big, if we make the bar for fire this big, it doesn't look right, does it? It might give you more some kind of impression that the count for fire is way more than just 7. Or just the count. It was okay. 12. So we want to make all the bars have same width to avoid the kind of wrong impression. And see some gaps here. So if you want to change the width of the bars, you can click one of the bars and you'll be able to see that it's activated, and then right click your mouse and then you can kind of format in different ways. But for now, we don't really need to change anything that way. We'll come back to this very example very soon. Let me go back to the slide. That was what we just created, right? And as you can see, you can change the axis or the name of falls and the number of injury deaths. You can edit it. You can add or you can delete whatever you want to do.